We buy 5 to 15 or more rental properties every month with little to none of our money left in these deals using what I call the Section 8 BRRRR method. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how this works, why you would want to use it. I'm going to walk through a live example so you can see exactly what this looks like. And by the end of this video, you should have a clear understanding of what the Section 8 BRRRR method is and how you can apply it as well. So if you don't know what the BRRRR method stands for, this was a term that was coined by Brandon Turner. He used to be with this company called BiggerPockets, and it stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. The whole idea behind this strategy is to be able to scale a real estate portfolio with as little capital needed. So you could take, let's say, $100,000 and you could scale a 10, 20, 50 plus property portfolio if you do this correctly. The alternative is if you were to do a standard type of deal where you're putting 20% down, eventually you're going to run out of money. But using the BRRRR method, and in this case the Section 8 BRRRR method, you can pull a lot of your capital out of these deals and you could still cash flow on every deal as well. So you're picking up all these properties. I look at it like a game of Monopoly. You're picking up these properties and you're building your portfolio of cash flowing properties, and you're getting all of your capital out so you can continue to buy more properties. So how exactly does this work, and how can you apply this and do it as well? So the first step is going to be to buy. We buy distressed properties, and this is assuming you already have a market picked out. I have other videos on my channel on how to pick a good market, the criteria that I look for, so go and watch those. I'll link to it in the description below so you can find it. But this is assuming you already have your market picked out. So we're buying a distressed property. We're in 3 core markets right now. So we're going to be looking in these markets and we're buying distressed properties. And these are typically 30K to 70K. Sometimes they're outside of this, but they're 30 to 70K. And these are 3 to 5 bedroom single family homes or duplexes. I don't like to go too much higher than this personally because I just have the easiest maintenance with single family and duplex. And then also in single family, those are the most desirable for tenants because they don't want to share a wall with somebody. So we're buying a distressed property for 30 to 70K. We are buying it cash, by using cash. And the reason we buy cash is to save on the 6K to let's say 12K in interest and closing costs. The alternative to buying cash is you would have to use hard money. So hard money loans, these are going to be 9 to 13% interest loans. And these are interest only. You're going to need to hold these for typically 3 months while the rehab's going on. So 3 months of interest payments. And these also have about 6 to 8K in closing costs. Okay? And essentially, you're getting 2 loans because you're using a loan to acquire the property, which is the hard money loan if you don't use cash. And then when you do a cash out refinance, you're going to pay closing costs again. So you're paying double fees if you have to use a hard money loan. The numbers can still work out. It's just not as good. And if you're buying cheap properties that are 30 to 70 grand, and you're spending 6 to 12K in interest and closing costs, that could kill the deal in some cases. So we want to save where we can, and whenever we're working with a client now who wants to do a Section 8 BRRRR deal, we only work with people who can use cash to fund the entire deal because that makes it easy and more profitable for them. So we buy using cash, and then the next step is we go and renovate the property. We rent out majority to Section 8 tenants. So Section 8, they have an inspection list. The housing authority has an inspection list of what they look for in order for the property to pass inspection and for a tenant who has a Section 8 voucher to be approved to move into the house. So we renovate up to those standards. A lot of people think if you have Section 8 tenants, your house is trash and it's crappy and you're a slumlord. That's not the case. It's actually more strict in getting a Section 8 tenant in there because you have to go and pass the inspection. And if you were to move a private pay tenant into the house, it could be completely garbage. And if the tenant likes the house, they can move in. So there's no standards for a normal tenant to move in. With Section 8, you have to pass the inspection. So we renovate up to Section 8 inspection standard. We get it rent ready for Section 8 tenant. This process takes anywhere from about 2 to 7 weeks. So I have a business partner, he has a construction team, and he works in the markets that we operate in. And rehabs, depending on how heavy it is, it's going to be about 2 to 7 weeks, and this is going to be anywhere from about 20K up to 60K. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. But when you look at this, and if you're getting scared, just remember, it doesn't matter what the cost of this is as long as the numbers still pencil out and as long as the deal still makes sense. So as long as the numbers still work out, I don't really care if it's a heavy rehab. If I'm going to make money on the deal, then great, let's do it. So we're going to renovate it up to Section 8 inspection standards. This is typically going to take about 2 to 7 weeks and 20 to 60K. The other thing I forgot to mention with the hard money loan is if you have the right hard money lender, they will lend 100% of the rehab. Now there's still costs to this, like draw fees. So whenever you take budget from the rehab loan, you're going to pay a draw fee. Typically these are about $150 to $200, and then you're going to pay interest on what you borrow. So it's not free, but they will lend you 100% of the rehab cost. Again, if we're doing a BRRRR deal with a client, we make sure that they can fund the property and the renovation with their own money, with their cash. And if they have like a credit card, a 0% interest business credit card, they can use that as well. But at this point in time, we only work with clients who can fund the entire deal in cash because again, they're going to save a lot of money doing it this way. So we buy the property, we buy distressed, 30 to 70 grand. We use cash to buy it. We renovate the property up to Section 8 inspection standards, which is going to take 2 to 7 weeks, 20K to 60K in rehab costs. Then we rent out to a Section 8 tenant. So rent out to Section 8. And we do this because we can often get 20 to 50% higher than market rate rent. So I have a tenant, and sometimes it can be higher, right? So I have a tenant that is paying $22.80 a month, and the market rate is around $1,200 a month. So we're getting over $1,000 more a month in rent just by renting out to Section 8, and we got it up to Section 8 standards to pass the inspection. Then we rented it out to this tenant, and just by doing that, we're getting $1,000 a month more in rent, which is, I mean, this just completely changes the deal, right? So we want to rent out to Section 8 where the numbers make sense. If it's equal, if the Section 8 rent is equal to what we would get from a market rate tenant, then we would consider getting a market rate tenant. But I would say 90% of our tenants are Section 8 because in our markets, for the most part, the areas that we buy in, the rent for a Section 8 tenant is 20 to 50% or more higher. So we're going to rent out to that Section 8 tenant, and then we're going to do a cash out refinance. So if you're working with us and our lenders, you can refinance before you rent the property out. But the reason that you might want to wait is because you can get more out of the cash out refinance if you have it rented out. So if it's before the property's rented out, and the lenders that we have don't have seasoning periods. Seasoning period means that some lenders will force you to hold the property for 6 to 12 months before you can refinance, but our lenders don't have that requirement. So if it's before rented out, you can get 75% LTV. And then if it is rented out, you can get 80% LTV. I'll explain what that means in a second. So the way refinance works is, let's say that you buy the property, you renovate it. You have to have it renovated before you do the refinance, but you don't have to have it rented out if you're working with our lenders. So if you renovate the property and you're like, hey, I want to do a refinance right now before the property is rented out, then an appraiser will go out to the house, and I'll show you an example of this in a second, and give it a value. So let's just say it's 100K. In the not rented scenario, you're going to get 75K back as a loan, okay? If it is rented out, then you're going to get 80K back. And you can see this is going to stack up. The higher the values are, the more of these that you do. So if you get more money back, the cash flow is going to be lower because the loan's going to be higher and you have more money that you're taking out. But you could use that to go and buy more deals, right? Buy more property. So we're getting $5,000 extra if we are waiting before we rent it out to Section 8 to go and do a refinance. So this is the main difference that we see. It's really up to you what you need at that particular time. But we refinance, and so this is the process. An appraiser goes out, they give it a value, 75, 80% LTV. You get that back. This is a tax-free loan, by the way. And let's just say, we're going to use an example here, okay? Let's just say we bought a property for $40K, and then we put $25K into it. Let's do this. So we're into this for $65K, and then let's also add about $6K in closing costs, okay, on the refi. So we're into this about $71K. Now, if the property appraises at $100K, like this, and we're getting $75K back, that means that we have $4K, we have all of our money back, all capital back, plus $4K extra. Can't type today. $4K additional. So we have all the capital that we used to buy the property and renovate it, plus the closing costs on the refinance, plus an additional $4,000. We got paid to do this deal. And if you do it correctly, if you're renting out to Section 8, you should still be cash flowing. About 300 up to about 600 or so. This doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's a little less. Depends on how much you cash out, right? It could be, let's just say 200. But if you're getting money back after the refinance and you're still cash flowing, that's a win. You have no money left in the deal and you have a property that's paying you hundreds of dollars every month without any of your capital left in this. And then once you go through a deal, you get all your capital back out, you repeat this for as many deals as you can find. The tricky part about this is these types of deals, these BRRRR deals, it's very execution heavy. You need to know what you're doing. You have to have a good team. And so these deals, there's a lot of things that need to go right. These deals can be hard to find and harder to execute on unless you're working with somebody who has a team and knows what they're doing, right? Hint, hint. Once you go through this process, you have all your capital back, you could buy a property, let's say every month. If you have, let's say 100, 200, 300 grand, you could have multiple of these deals going at the same time, right? You could have 2, 3, 4, 5 properties going every month. I wouldn't say to do that right off the bat, but once you get comfortable with this process, you could start doing more of these in volume and faster. So I want to show you what this looks like, an example. I have a client right now that he bought a property in cash for $40,000. That's why I mentioned that in the example, it was top of mind. So he bought this property back in, I think it was the end of 2024, and it's in 44125. It's about 1,500 square feet, 1,1600 square feet. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And so you could see, we're going to go to the for sale filter, and we're going to go to the last 1 year. So what we're trying to see is, we do this before we buy any property. We look at certain zip codes that we know to be good, and then we look for properties in those zip codes, and then we see what the values are or what they can be. Once we fix it up, we get it rent ready, we make it nice, and then we go to refinance. His property is somewhere like in this, it's kind of in this range here. So I'm going to zoom in, and we want to get above 100,000. We don't want to see like the distressed properties. So I'm going to look at these properties here. Let's see what we can do. It's definitely bigger than this. So it's around 1,550 square feet. So 150, let's see, this one's a little lower. You can see it's a lot smaller, 888 square feet. What I'm trying to do is find comparable properties to see what we can get, what the appraiser is going to appraise the property at once we do the refinance. So there is some guessing involved, but it's educated guessing because we're looking at the map to see what's sold. And you want to look at what's actually sold, not what's active. We're seeing what was sold in the last year to see what we can potentially get. So 170 here. This looks like it's similar. 3.2. And I mean, this is nicer than what ours is going to be. So I would say, I'm going to say 140 to 150. Let's just say 145. Okay. So if we go down here, we do example BRRRR. Heading 1. So I have a client who bought 44125 3.2 in 2024 for 40K. Then he put about, rehab was about, I think 35K. So he's into this. Invested is about 77 or 75K. It's already rented out to Section 8. And he's getting $16.50 a month. And tenant is paying all utilities, including water and sewer. So you pays util plus water and sewer. Okay, and we haven't refinanced yet. We're in the process of figuring out, like, okay, what can he get for this? His situation is he's trying to buy a primary house, and he wants to pull capital out of this deal because it's sitting in cash. He wants to pull capital out of this deal. He's trying to decide, should I sell this house or should I refinance? Of course, my answer is to refinance because he's going to get all of his capital out that he needs, and then he can put it into this primary home that he wants to buy. So we have an estimated ARV of 145K. And we got that by looking at the zip code in the area that the property's in. And we're looking at similar sized properties. So it's actually close to this size, I would say. 1.5, 3.2. It's a 3.2. It's around 1,600 square feet. And so we could see that there's actually comps higher than that 145, a lot higher. There's also comps that are lower, but these are smaller in square footage. And so size makes a difference. So if it's 1,104 square feet, our property or my client's property is 40 to 50% higher. So he's going to get in that ballpark of 140 to 150 if we're looking at comps in the area, in the immediate area that's like a half a mile or less away. So this is an educated guess, and we're pretty accurate because we pull 5 to 10 comps before we even send deals over to clients. And so if he gets 75% of this value, that's going to be 145. It's going to be 108,750. Now, does this pay back his 75K? Well, let's just say 75K minus another 6K for closing costs. He's going to be at about 27,750. So this is money he gets back in addition to getting all of his initial capital back, which is his 75K. So you see how this works, right? He's getting $75,000 back. Plus, because this area appreciated so much from the time that he got a great deal on this property. You're not going to find $40,000 houses in this area. But he has $27,750 additional for the next property. So he's getting all of his initial capital back plus almost 30 grand that he can then use to buy another property and build his portfolio. Now, I'm definitely not saying that you're going to get 27 grand every time you do a BRRRR deal. You should not be looking for that. That is a very unrealistic expectation because this client got a great deal on this property and he's going to make out like a bandit. He's going to get all of his capital back plus a good amount, and he's still going to cash flow. So let's actually run that before I forget. So will he cash flow? He currently has it rented for $16.50 a month. Okay, so this is his rent, and you're going to subtract. Let's go to this mortgage calculator here. If it appraises for 145, and he's doing 25% that he leaves in. This is 44125. We're going to go closer to this. And you could see here, principal and interest, property tax, homeowners insurance, $1,054. So we're going to go back here. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. He's also using property management. They're charging 10% of rent. So you would do 165 to PM. And so his total, let's see, 1650 minus 1054 minus 165. He is still cash flowing, or if it appraises like the scenario here, $435 a month. He's getting all of his capital back plus 27 grand, plus he still cash flows $435 a month. This is a perfect BRRRR deal. You're not going to get this every deal, nor should you expect to get anything close to this on every deal. If you get this, it's a grand slam. But I just wanted to show you this because I'm working with a client on going through the refinance process for this right now. But this is the idea with the BRRRR. If you can get your capital back and still cash flow, it is a huge win. I consider it a win if you have $5,000 to $10,000 left in after the BRRRR, because as opposed to having 30, 40, 50 grand in the deal, now you only have 5 to 10 and you're cash flowing $300, $700, even $1,000 a month in some cases if you get a really good property in a high paying zip code. But this is the Section 8 BRRRR method. This is how we buy distressed properties for 30 to 70K. We renovate it up to Section 8 inspection standards. We rent it out to a Section 8 tenant for 20 to 50% higher than market rate. We refinance to pull most, if not all of our capital out, maybe even a little extra if we have an exceptional deal. And then we repeat the process to build our portfolio, build what I call the mini monopoly. So if you want to do this and you want to do it right, you need to have a good team and you need to know how to execute on every step, because a lot of things need to go right and a lot of things can go wrong through this process. If you would like deals like this that are basically found and handed to you by our team, we already have the markets picked out. We look at properties every day, hundreds of properties every day. And then we hand it over to our clients to say yes or no. If they can fund the deal in cash, then we do one of these Section 8 BRRRR deals with them if they want to do this. We have a lot of clients who just would rather do the 15 to 20% standard deal as long as it cash flows. But if you want to do a capital efficient strategy like this and scale a real estate portfolio with less capital needed, and this looks interesting to you, then I'm going to leave my link to my Instagram down in the description. Just send me a DM with the word BRRRR and tell me you watched this video and tell me you're interested in learning more about how this could work for you. But I hope you found this useful. This is the Section 8 BRRRR method. This is how we buy 5 to 15 rental properties every month and have little to no money left in the deal so that we can scale our portfolios faster. I'll see you in the next video.